The sound of the diner door chime broke the soft hum of the afternoon, but for one man, it echoed like thunder through his soul. When Ryan Cross stepped inside that spotless chrome and yellow diner after 5 long years on the road, the last thing he expected was to find his mother, the woman who'd once held the world together for him, trembling under another man's voice. His boots froze on the black and white tiles as he saw her, frail, aged, and wearing a faded pink uniform, being scolded by a manager in a black vest who jabbed his finger toward the table she was wiping. Her hands shook as she obeyed, her eyes lowered, her lips pressed together to keep from breaking. Ryan's fists tightened by his sides, his breath sharp and uneven. He had seen fights, fires, and funerals, but nothing hit harder than this moment, his mother's dignity being stripped away in front of strangers. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, then please take a second to like this video, share it, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because sometimes, the smallest stories hold the biggest truths about love, pain, and redemption. 5 years earlier, Ryan had left this town like a storm, angry, lost, and tired of poverty. He'd been a drifter, a biker, and a fighter who thought freedom meant cutting ties. His father had died young, and his mother, Martha Cross, had spent decades working double shifts in diners and laundromats just to keep their tiny apartment. But Ryan couldn't stand seeing her struggle. He'd told her he was going out to find a better life. What he really found was asphalt, loneliness, and 1,000 miles of regret. He rode with people who didn't ask questions, a brotherhood of rough men with louder engines than hearts, but who gave him the only family he had left. Yet every night, when the road grew quiet, her voice haunted him, the sound of her laughter, the way she said, "Come home safe, Ryan," as if she already knew he wouldn't. Now, as he watched her from across that diner, time stood still. The manager's voice cut through his thoughts again, sharp and cold. "Do it right this time, Martha," he barked, slamming his palm on the counter. Ryan noticed how the customers nearby turned their heads away, pretending not to see, but he saw everything, the tremor in her shoulders, the redness in her eyes, the way she swallowed her pride just to keep her job. He wanted to move, to step forward, to say something, but his legs felt heavy. For years, he'd been afraid of facing her, afraid of what he'd become, afraid that she'd look at him and see only the disappointment he carried. Behind him, 3 of his biker brothers walked in quietly, their boots echoing like thunder rolling in from a distant storm. They were rough men, the kind others avoided, but they had hearts shaped by loyalty. The diner's chatter fell silent as their black vests caught the sunlight through the glass doors. Ryan took one deep breath, his jaw tightening as he watched his mother turn, startled by the sudden stillness. Her eyes met his for the first time in half a decade. Her face changed, first confusion, then disbelief, then a rush of tears she tried to hide by looking down. He stepped forward, slowly, as if every step was a lifetime between them closing. The manager frowned, crossing his arms, not realizing who he was dealing with. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" he asked, his tone stiff. But Ryan didn't answer. His voice was buried beneath 5 years of guilt and love. He simply kept walking until he was beside his mother. Then he gently took the cloth from her shaking hand, set it on the counter, and turned toward the men who had been shouting. The manager's expression faltered when he saw Ryan's eyes, calm but burning with quiet anger. "You don't talk to her like that," Ryan said, his voice low but steady, every word echoing through the diner like a warning. The men stammered, she missed a spot, but Ryan stepped closer, his height and silence enough to stop him mid-sentence. The other bikers stood behind him, arms crossed, watching. "Then clean it yourself," Ryan said softly. "She's done enough." The room went silent except for the faint sound of a coffee machine hissing behind the counter. The manager's pride evaporated into awkward fear, and after a moment, he backed away without another word. Ryan turned back to his mother, who was standing still, tears slipping down her cheeks. He didn't care that everyone was watching. He reached out, touched her shoulder gently, and whispered, "I'm sorry, Mom." She blinked up at him, her lips trembling. "Ryan. I thought you were gone." He shook his head. "I tried to be. But I couldn't stay away forever." For a long time, she didn't speak. Then, with her voice breaking, she said, "I kept your room the same way." That one sentence shattered him more than any fight ever could. All those years he'd been running from the idea of coming home, and all along, she'd been waiting with the door open. They sat in that yellow booth for hours, talking quietly, while his biker brothers stayed near the door, giving them space. Ryan learned she'd kept working to pay the rent, never asking anyone for help, never telling anyone where her son had gone. She'd prayed for him every night, even when she had no reason to believe he'd come back. When they finally stood to leave, she tried to hide her tears, dabbing her eyes with a napkin. Ryan put his arm around her shoulders and whispered, "You don't have to clean tables anymore, Mom. You're coming home." The diner manager didn't say a word, he just watched silently, shame written all over his face. As they walked toward the door, sunlight filled the room again, casting a soft glow on the floor. It felt like the world had just turned a page. Outside, Ryan's motorcycle gleamed under the clear blue sky, and for the first time in years, he felt the road didn't belong to him anymore, home did. He helped his mother onto the bike gently, like she was something precious, and when she smiled, it wasn't tired anymore. It was proud. The other bikers revved their engines in quiet respect as the town watched the son who'd lost his way find his reason to stay. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Corner, because kindness can change lives, and love can always bring someone home. Before you go, tell us in the comments, would you forgive yourself and go back home if you could rewrite your past? As the engines roared down the road and the diner grew smaller behind them, Ryan didn't look back, not because he was running this time, but because he was finally free. For 5 years, he had been a man without direction. But that day, he found his compass again, and it pointed straight to his mother.